brothers and sisters of Christ, my name is Brianna and I'm back with another video. For today's video is, are you ready for a spouse? Are you ready for a husband? Are you ready for a wife? And I say this because years ago in 2021, I remember that I had prayed and I asked God to send me my husband, right? Because deep down inside, I was done. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to party anymore. I didn't want to deal with people anymore. I always knew that I wanted a family and I wanted to be a wife, right? And before it came, I felt deep down in my soul like that I was going to be a wife, you know, that I was ready to settle down and live a calm and soft life. And that was really that all I ever wanted. And I had reached that point like, God, I'm ready. You know what I'm saying? Just send them. Send them already. But in reality, I prayed that prayer once and I went on by my life. But in reality, when I prayed that prayer, I was indeed, baby, not ready. Okay? I was not ready in no sense, no shape, or no form, if we're going to be honest. I was still childish. You know, I was still partying. I was still drinking a lot. I was not ladylike. I had an attitude problem. I was not patient. I was not understanding. I was not kind. You know what I'm saying? I would not let a man lead. I was argumentative. I did not listen. I was selfish. I was not willing to be submissive. Now, I was never the type to sleep around with many people or, you know, just any old body. But regardless of that, I was still fornicating. You know what I'm saying? With the people that I did deal with. And if you're still giving your body to men that are not your husband, then you are not ready. Because you must prepare yourself for your husband before he even gets to you. And, you know, I'm not saying that you need to be perfect when you find your husband, but there's things that needs to already be handled and nipped in the bud as a woman. And this goes for men too. There's things that needs to be handled and nipped in the bud before you find your mate. Things that we have to work on. I'm big on, we have to work on ourselves individually before, like, getting with someone. Because if you don't work on yourself individually and you come in with this person with all this baggage and all this stuff, you know, you can nip, don't get me wrong, stuff could be nipped in the bud in a relationship, but I do feel that it is a lot of stuff that we need to work on as individual people before we go get into relationships, child. So I had a lot of things that I still needed to work on. Like, we be thinking it's just marriage, we think it's just relationship. No, it's a lot of stuff that come into play. You have to be selfless, you know what I mean? So I laugh when I think about the fact that I was not ready when I prayed that prayer. But although we're not ready, God will still prepare us. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, everybody's situation is different. But, so with my story, after that prayer, things started to move very quickly. You know what I'm saying? Without me even knowing where it was going. You know what I'm saying? Shortly after I prayed that prayer, like literally months down the line, I ended up back dealing with my ex, who is now my fiance. At that time, I didn't even know where it was going. You know what I'm saying? I was just going with the flow. That prayer didn't come back to my memory until we moved out of state and you know, we had my daughter, and I began to realize that that prayer was coming to pass. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know it was going to be my ex. I'm thinking, you know what I mean? I just prayed that prayer one time, went on about my life. And next thing I know, he like, boom, you back with your ex. Boom, y'all moving out of state. Boom, y'all having a baby. Boom, y'all engaged. Boom, y'all giving y'all life to me. It was just like, boom, 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 boom. But when I prayed that prayer, I never expected or thought that. Like, things just got to moving. But, anywho, a lot of times when we ask for a husband and ask for a wife, we also must evaluate ourselves to see if we're even ready for what we're asking for. And that also goes for anything else in life. We have to prepare ourselves for things that we're asking for. We have to be ready. And I've mentioned that before. Because if you ask for something that you're not ready for, then you must be ready to prepare and work on what you're asking for. You know, but yet we want God to just give us these things, especially women, because we all have these qualities and stuff, you know, that we want men to have. But what about our qualities? You know what I'm saying? Are you actively working to improve in a way that is beneficial to both you and your spouse or your potential spouse, and not just you? You know what I'm saying? And I'm mainly speaking for the women because I'm a woman, and I know a lot of my audience, well, probably not, because I talk about God, not relationship stuff, but I'm a woman. So speaking from a woman perspective, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've been in this situation, so that's why I'm speaking on it. You know, I'm asking for a man and I expect him to have great qualities. Meanwhile, back then, my qualities wasn't the best. So it's like, you know, a lot of times we want men to work on themselves while we do nothing but receive the man at his best. And I say all this because this is stuff that I did not realize back then that I was also doing. I'm like, you know, oh wow, like, I want a good man, but am I a good woman? And I wasn't at that time at all. So, you know, I wasn't a whore, but the characteristics, you know, it doesn't align up to a woman of God, a good woman. What back then who I was. But I also know that everything worked out the way God intended it. But I wanted to express that what I realized, you know, I want to express what I realized was an issue for myself and many others probably. So, and for my fiance and I, before we got back together, no, when we got back together, sorry, I'm reading wrong. We had changed a little bit. I mean, before we got back together, it was like this much. Like, it was little changes, you know, but it wasn't even like godly. It was just little changes, that stuff that we didn't do before in our relationship. But the most part, we were doing a lot of the same stuff that we did the first time we dated. Because the most important quality that we both lacked as a couple when we dated the first time was a true relationship with God. We knew of him, but we didn't have a real deep relationship with him. And see, it wasn't until we found God that we truly changed for the better. Like, God made him a real man, a true real man, and he made me a true real woman. You know what I'm saying? I just mentioned to y'all how I was not, my qualities were not it back then. You know what I'm saying? And the more we pursued the Lord, the more we have godly qualities. Real women and men qualities. You know, he changed us from the inside out. But, you know, work on yourself. Seek the Lord, because he will definitely prepare you the proper way for your spouse. You know what I'm saying? When you pray, prepare and be willing. So, you know, it's just one of those topics that we just, like, you think about, like, evaluating yourself. Like, am I ready for this? Because we all want, you know, nobody wants to be lonely. Everybody, for the most part, wants a spouse. And a lot of times we prematurely ask for them when we're not ready. And in my situation, when we got back together, my fiance and I, we still was not ready, but God prepared us and made us ready. But it's like certain people, he will have you prepare before. And everything worked out the way it was supposed to work out. But looking back, I realized that I wasn't doing any preparation, no changing. But I'm talking about, I'm ready for a man. I'm ready for a husband. Girl, do you know what it takes to have a husband? You know what I'm saying? Like, you should start working on that if that's what you're ready for. You know what I'm saying? Talking to myself. So that was just something that I had thought about. But yeah, God will prepare you, or, you know, like I said, it's different for certain people. He might prepare you beforehand, or he'll just have you and your spouse go ahead and he'll be preparing y'all together. You know what I'm saying? It's just best to be, you know, the good thing is you're going to be prepared regardless, you know, but you have to seek the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't seeking the Lord back then, and I wasn't preparing myself. And I wasn't preparing myself probably because I wasn't seeking the Lord. You know what I'm saying? If I was seeking the Lord, he would have been doing the work inside of me. Like, okay, I need you to stop drinking. I need you to start doing this, doing that, doing that. So the key in all of this is to seek the Lord. In your single season, your relationship season, whatever it is, seek the Lord so he can prepare the way for you. But if this word is not for you, it's for somebody else. Remember, I'm telling y'all this because I love y'all. God bless.